Hello, everybody. This is episode 1 for Buckner Life Coaching. My name is Coach Buckner, Eastman Buckner, and I am the president and CEO of Buckner Life Coaching. So I've been doing coaching pretty much all my life, and I know that's crazy to say. I mean, how could you be doing coaching when you are, 6 and 7 years old? But the reason I'm saying that is because there's certain things about me that I have learned have become true. In other words, you're doing something and not even know that you're doing it, even at an early age. When you are gifted or talented to do something, it comes natural to you. So I guess I've had this ability to where people would always come to me with a particular problem, and I could listen to the problem, I could disconnect myself from it, and then I would be able to talk with them about their particular problem. I'll never forget a couple of years ago, several years ago, a person told me I had been speaking to him for a number of years, just in passing, wasn't nothing formal coaching. And they told me, they told me, you know why I always call you? And I'm like, no, why? And they said, because you never judge me. And I'm like, I don't? I criticize you a lot. He says, yeah, I can take the criticism, but you never judge me. You hear what I have to say and you say what you think needs to be said. So I'm only telling you this because I believe that not everybody has to have a inborn talent for coaching. I think everybody can coach some people within their sphere of influence, within their family and stuff like that. And that's different from mentorship. People think mentorship is like life coaching, and it is, but it is to a specific person, and it's usually within a particular skill set. And so life coaching is something that is broad. It literally is your life, how you go about accomplishing things in your life. But one of the most important things to talk about is that coaching, life coaching, is different from counseling. Now, there's a stigma against counseling, unfortunately, by a lot of people, but I believe that counseling is a very important tool, and it is a tool that is designed primarily to determine how you got where you are. And that means that you have to start looking back first. Counselors normally have to talk about, who your parents were and where do you live and how, what was your upbringing like? What was the relationship with your mother? What was the relationship with your father? What was the relationship with your siblings? What kind of relationships were you in? All those particular things. They have to look into all of that and determine how all of that has impacted you to bring you where you currently are. So counseling is great, but it does look back and it helps you determine how you got where you are. And that's a great thing. However, life coaching looks forward. Life coaching says, hey, where are you trying to go? And the life coach is supposed to help you get there. Now, but whereas counseling looks back and they talk about certain relationships, coaching has to have some degree of starting point. So the best way to have that starting point is to use the two assessments that I use. So I am certified by Gallup as a strength coach. And a strength coach with Gallup is based on talents. So talent is defined differently with Gallup. Talent is defined as a naturally occurring pattern of thought, feeling, and behavior that can be productively applied. Now, think about that. It's a naturally occurring pattern of thought, feeling, and behavior. So in essence, you were born a particular way. You were born with certain tendencies. And once you are born with those certain tendencies, that's how you're going to manifest. Now, you may at times deviate or put a face forward for certain things, but deep down inside, without thinking it, you're going to naturally do certain things. Now, what I learned from my naturally occurring patterns of thought, feeling, and behavior is that my number one talent in Clifton Strength Assessment is relator. Now, when I took the assessment, which would have been in 2018, no, 2020, I'm sorry. So in 2020, I didn't learn anything about myself. But what I did, I said, wow, I've been doing that my whole life. That's a talent. So you don't learn anything about yourself. You just begin to accept certain things about yourself. So my top 5 talents showed me, wow, that's a talent. And I look back at my life. My number 1 is called relator. Relator is a talent theme in which you have this ability, this natural ability to be able to connect with people deeply. In other words, you can take people apart and put them back together again. Now, once again, that's not something I picked up along the way. That's something I had at birth. Now, granted, it was undeveloped, unrecognized, but I was doing it without knowing that I was doing it. Now, as an adult, now I can do it with intention. Now I know that I'm doing it. So incorporating that into an official life coaching business is something easier for me because I'm doing it anyway. Another one of my top 5 talents is achiever. I have to accomplish something every day. I don't care how small it is, I must accomplish something. And the third one I have is called context. Happens to be my favorite talent. Now, if you talk with me over time, you're going to find out that my talent theme of context is the fact that I'm always telling you or telling someone or showing people how where we are today was because of things in the past. So people with the talent theme that are high in their profile of context look back. They explain the current by explaining the past. I'll never forget, it was one particular time I was, as a matter of fact, was doing my course, my coursework for Gallup. Somehow the topic of the housing crisis came up. Now, I think the housing crisis actually happened in 2007 or 2007, 2008. Matter of fact, George W. Bush was the president at the time. So when people were explaining that, I said, hold on now, actually, the problem began in 1977. And everybody's like, what are you talking about, 1977? I said, yes, that's where the problem began. So I began to show them the history about the fact that in 1977, I think it was 78, Carter put out what we call the Community Reinvestment Act, telling banks that they had to produce a certain amount of subprime loans each year, but there was no enforcement to it. Then Bill Clinton comes along and he says, hey, nobody's doing this because there's no enforcement. If they don't do X amount of loans each year, then we're going to take away their FDIC, their Federal Deposit Insurance. So the bank said, hey, we can't lose that, so we're going to do this. So the bank started producing these subprime loans, and then those subprime loans, they didn't have to keep them by the regulation, so they sold them off, and then all things happened. So I'm explaining all to say to this is that that's something that I do naturally. I naturally go back and tell you all the dominoes that fell to get you where you are. That's one of those things. My fourth top 5 is learner. In other words, I love to learn. It doesn't really necessarily matter what the subject is. And a great deal of the subjects I've learned, I can't see at the time of learning it how I would use it. But it was interesting at the time. So I have to learn something almost every day. And I will seek to learn that. So I'm the type of person who, some people would say quite boring. I will sit down and watch a documentary. I don't care what the documentary is on. I was watching one on octopuses the other day. And I don't know a guy named Tracy Morgan, comedian. He loves octopus. He's obsessed with them. And he was part of this documentary. But I found the documentary fascinating. Now, I don't know how in the heck I'm going to use a documentary or knowledge about octopus in the rest of my life. But it didn't matter. I had an opportunity to learn something that day, and I did. Once again, naturally occurring pattern of thought, feeling, behavior that can be productively applied. So, and my last of my top 5 is called individualization. Now, this is the one that I think helps me the best, number 1 and number 5, as it relates to life coaching. I see everybody as an individual. I classify no one. Everybody is an individual to me. I don't care what your race, color, creed is. I don't care. When I see you, you're an individual. I don't group you in with other people. So I can speak directly to you because I'm not trying to get you to conform to a group think type of mentality. So that's how I naturally do it. I see everybody individually. I think everybody is unique. And I know that's true, not only from, just the fact that our DNA makes us completely unique. Our fingerprint makes us completely unique, that we have unique talents as well. All of us have unique talents in different intensities. And it's extremely rare for somebody to have the exact same top 5 talent themes that you have in the same order. As a matter of fact, I think Gallup says it's 1 in 33 million would have the exact same top 5 talent themes in the same order. That's what I do. When I give a person that assessment, before we start coaching, I start coaching people, I give them the Clifton-Strengths assessment. So now I know who they are. Remember, I'm looking forward. I don't need to look back. Great for counseling, but I don't need to do that. So I've got this assessment. I know how God fashioned you, and I know what he fashioned you to do naturally. So now my goal is to find some place, or either how do you implement who you are into accomplishing your goals? If one of those goals is to find a job that you love and pays well, then I will look at your top 5 and say, hey, certain jobs will allow you to do these things that you do naturally. That's what they're designed to do. So in other words, because you're shaped like a hammer, we're going to look for nails to hit. That's how you use your talents. Because the holy grail when it comes to employment is for people to pay you to be yourself. And that's what it happens when you know what your talent themes are, and you exercise those, and you build those, and you use those intentionally, and you have some form of employment or entrepreneurship that allows you to be yourself naturally and to be able to make income for it. So that's the first assessment that I do. The second assessment I have is called the Arnold Profile System. So this is a system based by 2 Christian professors, and it is designed to tell us what your inborn temperament is. And what it does, it measures your inborn temperament as it relates to control, as it relates to inclusion, and as it relates to affection. So in other words, the 3 areas that it looks at is how much control would you want to have over people, and how much control will you allow to be had over you? The second one is as it relates to inclusion. How often, how much do you need people around you? And how much do you don't want people around you? And the third one is affection. How much affection do you need, and how much affection would be overwhelming for you? So this gives me an assessment as to how God fashioned you in those areas. So those 2 assessments, the Clifton Strength Assessment and the Arnold Profile System, allows me to read those, and from day one, the first session we have, I'm able to start giving you excellent advice as to how to be yourself and accomplish whatever goals you have. And I also can tell you whether or not your goals are consistent with who you are. Unfortunately now, a great deal of young people are looking at what job can I make the most money at? And I understand that. But maybe if you are operating in an area that is not consistent with who you are, you're going to hate that job. You may make the money, but over time, you'll never be really, really good at it. Why? Because you're not fashioned for that. Once you understand once I have these 2 assessments, it's just a matter of saying, hey, okay, let's look at this goal. Let's look how this will work with you. Either be a relationship, and most of them are career goals oriented and things such as that. So that's what I do. My job is to help you determine how God fashioned you, and how can you use how God fashioned you to accomplish your goals and to glorify him. I happen to be a born-again Christian, so I believe that all of us are made in the image and likeness of God. So therefore, we have this responsibility to properly reflect that image and likeness of God. And all that we do should be honoring to him. Yes, we all fail. Yes, we all do crazy things. But the essence of it is to glorify him. And I think we all glorify him when we operate according to our design. Let me wrap this up. So what I want you to understand is that at Buckner Life Coaching, our goal is to help you be you. And one of my favorite themes which is on my sign back here, is what's strong with you? Because most of the books that we read and the lectures that we get and is to tell us what's wrong with us. You're not doing this right. You're not doing that right. You need to beef this up or beef that up or do better with this. No. Focus on your strength. Know what your strengths are and focus on your strengths. I think it was Stephen Covey in his landmark book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He talked about that. He talked about there's no time lost in sharpening your axe. In other words, some of us, I would dare say most of us, are swinging a dull axe. We're working hard. We're swinging hard trying to chop this tree down, but our axe is dull. But we don't believe that if we stop to sharpen the axe, we believe that if we take the time out to sharpen the axe, we're going to lose some money or lose some time. No, take the time to sharpen your axe. And then when you get back to work, you will find out that the work will be easier and quicker. So, one of the things about life coaching, it literally is sharpening your axe, sharpening who you are, focusing on how to sharpen who you are so that you can be effective on all those things that you desire to do. All right, I'm going to end it here today. I am Coach Buckner of Buckner Life Coaching. I look forward to talking to you next time at our next session. Take care.